Mr. Chairman, what Senate Bill 886 does, it's identical to legislation you all passed. We passed out of our chamber last year. It basically requires sick leave for grocery store workers and almost all healthcare workers, but not quite. And the amendment has to do with the not quite part. So, okay. If you heard what Tom said, it moves the clause from the end of the sentence to the beginning to make sure it's really clear what it means. But so, if you look at the bill, lines 35 through 38 or 39 have the definitions, define what a grocery store worker and healthcare provider is. And then up at the top, it says that we're going to do sick leave. We already did sick leave, I think, in 2021 for home healthcare workers. This adds healthcare providers and grocery store workers. You all probably don't remember this, but last year we made some tweaks to the grocery store definition because the grocery stores thought we were letting Walmart and I don't know, some of these other big box stores that sell food that I don't go in there to buy my groceries, but I guess they felt like we're creating an unlevel playing field. And so basically we had to tweak the definition to make it pick up all grocery store workers, not just people that are actually in grocery stores, but people that are in stores that sell the food. And then healthcare providers, the hospitals and the medical society wanted to make it clear that we weren't picking up these, what they call PRN healthcare workers that travel around and work part-time. And the amendment sort of cleans that up, makes it clear. But I would just say, Mr. Chairman, I think during the pandemic we learned that there are some people out there that are on the front lines, like our grocery store workers and our healthcare workers, that have to work no matter how bad it gets when we have viruses floating around and other illnesses floating around. And these are people that we want to incentivize to stay healthy. And if they don't have sick leave, many of them are forced to work even when they're sick. And they might have, for example, during the COVID scenario, they might be working the cash register with COVID because they couldn't afford to go on sick leave. We give them sick leave, they can go home if they picked it up at work and not continue to transmit the virus to other people. And I think we owe our frontline workers sick leave if they have no choice but to be out there every day. I would note that the UFCW, the United Food and Commercial Workers, estimated 91,000 of their members, actually 456 of their members were killed by COVID. And I've read many stories in the paper about healthcare workers being killed by COVID because they had to work. And Mr. Chairman, this bill passed our chamber, I think, on a party line vote last year, although I did get some bipartisan support on this committee last time and on the Finance Committee last time. And I would hope we could get out of here and send it over to the House again.
Senator Norman.
A couple of questions, Senator Surovell. Does it still have the threshold that has been eliminated at 20 hours a week and 90 hours a month? Stated differently, what does a worker have to do to be qualified for receiving these benefits?
You have to meet the definition on line 39, which is to be a healthcare provider under 801, 581.1, which I believe is the Med-Mal-Cap definition of a licensed health professional, so a licensed healthcare worker. And then if you look, Mr. Chairman, down in lines 69 through 74, that's where the healthcare workers get pulled back out. So
My question is there any minimum hour threshold they have to work per week or per month?
No, but they're allowed to waive their right to accrue sick leave in writing under subsection F if they're under 30 hours.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that that's the employee's right to waive.
Correct.
Not the employer's. So somebody conceivably could work 5 hours a week and be eligible for this benefit.
I believe that's correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I keep doing that.
Mr. Chairman, second question. Is the definition of a frontline worker where you talk about we want to keep them healthy and exposed, is that an amorphous term that is going to continue to be expanded We've gone from healthcare workers to grocery store workers. There are a lot of other frontline people out there. And is this just the beginning of what is going to be an expanded definition of eligible workers?
Mr. Chairman, what I would say to Senator Norman is that the words frontline worker don't appear in the bill. That's a euphemism that I've used to describe this class of folks. I mean, ideally, I would like personally like to see everybody get sick leave, but I know we can never agree on that. And so my thought was we start with the people who are most likely to get sick when we have these kinds of scenarios, and it's our grocery store workers and our healthcare workers, and would hope we at least agree that they ought to have sick leave. We can talk about everybody else later.
Mr. Chairman, that's my concern, and you did make an indirect reference to a union organization earlier, I believe, and I know exactly where this is going. My last question, Mr. Chairman, has any effort been made to try to quantify what the potential financial exposure would be to employers?
They don't give me a FIS on that, so no. There is a FIS for Dolly having to have another person or two to monitor things, but no. I would just suggest, though, if people aren't getting as sick, the healthcare cost everybody will be less too. So, the societal cost, I think, might be neutral or positive. In fact, if people aren't out there getting sick and spreading more illness than we otherwise would see.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just would say to you, part of the reason I ask these questions is I think the altruism in some of our colleagues who want to extend benefits and raise wages sometimes do not pause to try to think about what the fiscal impact is on the employer. And I know in 21 and 22, I just got my end of the year statement on a business that I'm in, and I'm just a little pissant. As a result of one of the bills that was enacted, $110,000 year over year as a result of changes that we made. And I'm just a little guy. And so we come in here with the best of intentions, but rarely do we hear any discussion about what the fiscal impact is going to be on employers, which as a very astute and acute business person, is ultimately going to try to be passed on to the consuming public.
You want to respond?
I think I already did. He was responding to me again, but I can say the same thing back to him if you want.
In the audience, support for 886.
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Yes, Chairperson. Chairperson, members of the committee, my name is Jace Hatcher, Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. 1.2 million workers in Virginia do not have access to any paid time off or PTO, and that includes large amounts of our essential workers, 2/3 of grocery store workers, and 1 in 4 healthcare workers who have direct patient contact, who have no access to PTO. Amongst Virginia voters, this is a bipartisan issue. A 2020 poll done by the Watson Center showed that 83% of registered Virginia voters support a mandate that would allow workers to earn 5 paid sick days per year. And that included 96% of Democrats and 72% of Republicans. So we would urge your strong support for this bill, and we thank the patron for bringing it forward.
Good afternoon. Again, Kayla Mock with UFCW, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, Local 400. We support this bill. 63% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. There was a study done in 2022. And when you have that type of situation where workers get sick or they're living paycheck to paycheck, they're going to go to work and get their coworkers and the community sick. This is also a bill that's good for business. According to the National Partnership for Women and Working Families, working sick costs the national economy $234 billion annually in lost productivity. Providing paid sick days could save employers up to $1.8 billion each year through fewer absences from reduced spread of flu-like illnesses alone. For that and many other reasons, we strongly support this bill.
Members of the committee, my name is Christy Vance. I am a Kroger employee out of Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm a single mother of 2. I strongly urge you to support this bill. As a single mother, it is hard for me, if I get sick, to be at home because living paycheck to paycheck, I've got to be at work to make that money in order to pay my bills because I'm the only one paying my bills. We are, as it was stated earlier, the only industrial country that doesn't offer paid sick time to its workers. Thank you all.
Lisa Harris.
Limited to businesses over a certain amount of employees?
Excuse me. Mr. Chairman, it's limited to grocery stores and no. So no, there's no limit like that.
So, but it's just limited to grocery stores?
Grocery stores and healthcare workers, licensed healthcare workers.
Lisa Harris with Kroger, an essential worker for 15 years. I serve about 300 people a day through my own line personally, worked through the pandemic so far with a mother who is at risk or higher risk rather, worried about her health every day, worried about my coworkers' health and spreading it to each other, worried about the people I serve, giving it to them potentially, or any other illness I may have. Please consider this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Janet Wainwright. I'm a Kroger employee. I'm a meat cutter in Yorktown, Virginia. I encourage you to support this bill. It's very important to me and all of my coworkers. We're the ones that supply you food. How many of y'all go to the grocery store once or twice a week? Maybe 3 or 4 times a week. It's important that we get sick leave because right now we don't. We could lose our jobs if we call in sick. So this bill is very important for us. Thank you.
Hello, committee. My name is Stuart Martin. I've been a Kroger worker for 13 years, and for all 13 years, I haven't had paid sick leave. You wanted to talk about best intentions? It's been my best intention never to show up to work sick, to take that to a customer's house, and I guarantee you for 13 years, I have had to go to work sick, and so have my coworkers. I urge you to support this bill so we not only can keep our family safe, but every single one of your families safe, because we see you more than your doctors and your religious leaders. So please, let's look out for each other.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Julia Newton, SEIU, and we support this bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Doris Kraus Mays, Virginia AFL-CIO, and we support the bill.
Mr. Chair, Freddie Mejia with the Commonwealth Institute, and we support the bill.
Senator Martin?
Question for the patron. Scott, so what if you are a convenience store gas station owner? Your employees are divided into 2 categories, one who works on cars and then ones who work in the retail sales of canned goods and, bananas and apples, maybe some fruit, and they make pizza and hot dogs and what have you. Would those employees have to be treated differently in this bill?
Yeah, the way, again, we had to tweak the definition of the grocery store worker because of the concern that the grocery stores, the Krogers of the world, thought that the way the bill was originally drafted last year only applied to them, but didn't apply to, for example, Walmart, who has a big section where they sell food, and it would create that disadvantage. So we changed the definition of grocery store worker to make the grocery stores less unhappy, to say that it's an employee of the store that is primarily engaged in the retail sale of food and preparing food in an area of a grocery store that is not separately owned and where food is prepared and served. So it depends what you're primarily engaged in.
Scott, in Northern Virginia and maybe in a lot of Richmond, grocery stores mean Kroger's and Food Lion and Publix, but I know there's a little grocery store down the street here, Robinson Street Grocery, I bet they don't have more than 5 people who work there. Out my way, there's McDormand's Grocery out in Hinton, Virginia. Tiny little grocery store, probably 3, maybe 4 part-time people and the owner. And I just can't see imposing this burden on these, tiny little grocery stores all over the Commonwealth of Virginia. I mean, they're all going to disappear. I mean, they're disappearing now, but this just assures that they're going to be gone tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman? The solution to that, if you want to get into it, is on line 38, just at the end, just add that employs less than X employees, whatever that number is, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, et cetera. That's the solution to that problem.
Mr. Chairman, just say I would support this action because I know we've had discussions about food deserts where we have areas that have like no grocery stores, and the last thing I want to do is contribute to make that worse. I don't know, 25 a good number?
I don't want to offer it just because I'm not going to support the bill. I don't want to give the patron.
I'll make the motion that apply stores that have less than 25.
You mean more? You mean more than 25, I assume.
You would need more than 25.
Right.
You're saying 50?
He said 25.
25 seconds. Okay.
We never adopted the earlier amendments the Medical Society and the hospitals requested.
Okay, first let's deal with those. The earlier amendments, is there a motion? Second. I make a motion. And a second. All right. All those in favor of adopting those amendments, say aye.
Aye.
All right, they're adopted now. You have to have more than 25 employees for this bill to apply to you as a grocery store.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting that, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that amendment's been adopted. All right.
I don't think you asked for opponents.
Is there any other opposition to this?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
I'll be brief. Melissa Assalone with the Virginia Food Industry Association, representing grocery retailers across the Commonwealth. We oppose the bill.
Marcia T., please unmute and provide your testimony now. Marcia Tedderton.
I'm working on it. Hi, Marcy Tedderton. I'm with the Virginia Association for Home Care and Hospice. There was a bill that was passed last session. It dealt specifically with consumer-directed attendance in the Medicaid program. It left about 20,000 individuals out in the cold with no sick leave benefits. We estimate that the physical impact for Medicaid will be between $8 and $10 million in general fund money. Without funding, we will not be able to afford to provide sick leave.
That completes the speakers.
We have to go to finance. All right, there's a motion. Second. As amended, second to report as amended and return to finance, Senate Bill 886. All those in favor of reporting and deferring to finance, vote aye.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.